Hi everyone, this is Crystal with LP Design and Little Palettes, and today we are going to celebrate a great illustrator, Dr. Seuss. Now I know it's a week late, his birthday was last week, but you know, I was going through the archives, sorry about the bouncing light on the picture, and I found this image, and this is a great example of something that you can teach yourself or your students or anyone how to draw your own version of a Dr. Seuss. Now you may want to come up with a theme, maybe it's ocean, maybe it's whatever you want. My theme was ocean, but you can do what you want. So one thing that you may notice is that it's whimsical. It has some fun colors, and we use colored pencil in using this. So why don't we get right to it and draw our own Dr. Seuss. I'm gonna flip the camera down. Okay, now keep in mind that as I'm creating this, I'm drawing this upside down. So if it looks a little weird to your angle, just imagine how it must look to me. So one thing that we notice about Dr. Seuss is sometimes their heads are big, or they have kind of raggedy hair, or he loves to use lots of puffs. And so those are all features that we can totally add into our own picture. Another thing I would suggest is starting with pencil. However, I will not start with pencil today simply because one thing, if I do, you probably won't be able to see it. So I'm going to start with a Sharpie. Yes, a lovely Sharpie. And I'm going to start maybe with some crazy hair. I might even start with an ear. So I'm going to start with a lovely ear and maybe some tufts of hair. You can pre-plan it or you can choose not to. Okay, and then I might come in and do some big eyes. Maybe a big old nose. He tends to do characters with big noses. Maybe with a smiley face. And then we'll add some more hair and a neck. And something that often happens with a caricature is that we draw them with a big head and a tiny body. So perhaps you may want to show emotion to what your person's doing. Maybe they're skiing, so maybe I'm going to make my person have a scarf, and they have a scarf flowing in the background, and they could be skiing. And when you're drawing cartoon hands, you may say, why do they always draw them with 4 fingers, a thumb and 3 fingers? Well, let me tell you, because oftentimes when you're drawing a person or a cartoon, it's a little hard to make, if you draw all 5 hands, to make it look right. So that's why a lot of cartoonists will draw only 3 fingers and a thumb. And then we can add some little details here. You can even make the body even smaller as it goes along. Maybe some big feet to kind of add to the cartoony feel of it. Now keep in mind, I am drawing this upside down, so if it's not exactly proportioned, that's okay too, because it is a cartoon and it's a caricature. Maybe another hand here. And then think about your background. So maybe they're flying in the air or they're on top of a hill. Now I didn't leave a lot of room for mine, so I think that I'm just gonna have a little slope coming here, and then maybe a ski slope that he can jump off of. You can always add stuff to the background, like maybe mountains. With a little goat on top. Yeah. As I said, this is upside down, so it may not be like my typical goat. A little goat. It looks more like a unicorn, but that's okay. So I can add a lot more detail to this, but I could also add detail with my coloring. And as you see in this picture, I colored with color pencil. It kind of shows a smoother line. Also notice that when you look at Dr. Seuss's pictures, a lot of them have a black outline. That is my style of drawing. I love everything to have an outline because it just defines your spaces a lot better. So perhaps my person fell in a vat of pink dye, so I'm going to color them pink just to add to my story. And I like to tend to do the outline right next to the outline a little darker. I might even add some rosy cheeks. And you may notice that as I color in, I'm very purposeful in how I use my pencils. I'm not scribbling. The worst thing you could do on a picture like this, if you're trying to make it nice, is scribble. You definitely don't want to do that. I can also add highlights with the yellow. And maybe a low light with the blue. You try not to do black right away. That's what I've learned, is that if you do blue, it works a lot better. Why does it work better? Because black gets so dark so quickly. And these lines back and forth, I can go pretty fast, but these lines back and forth are often referred to as lawnmower lines. Other people may refer to them as other things, but that's what I've heard them referenced as. Because it creates a really nice texture. Because if I scribble, that's not the texture I want. I want it to be more realistic, even though I'm making my person pink. Of course, you can always outline again. And you can see that the darker line really stands out. Kind of frames the pink of it very nicely. You may ask, what kind of color pencils are you using? I'm not sure. I use whatever is available. These ones are Rose Art, so there's that answer. I also have some Crayola over here. I do have some Artist Prismacolors, but I only pull those out for super special occasions. Honestly, I love them because they tend to use more color and less wax. But I find that I can do a lot of the same stuff with regular color pencils. Now, other people may feel differently, and that's awesome. But honestly, my primary thing that I do art with is not typically color pencils. So if you feel differently about color pencils, you certainly can comment down below. Okay, so my lovely pink person is really coming together. Forgot to draw the sleeve on there. There we go. Okay, gonna make their pants polka dotty. And you can do anything like this, just fun, play around, come up with different characters. One of the best things you can do if you really love Dr. Seuss is try drawing some of the characters. Maybe get a photocopy and trace them, get some tracing paper. Because that's what a lot of artists do, is they look at stuff, they trace it, just so they can figure out how is it really drawn. The nice thing about Dr. Seuss is it's not overly complicated. It's pretty simple. to be honest. It doesn't have too many details, but the pictures tied with the story, just like I think of my childhood, and I just love the different Dr. Seuss books I had. They were just a joy to read. I remember when my friends had a Dr. Seuss book and it had a dog and it was driving and stuff. I can't remember the name at this time, but it's just wonderful to use your imagination as a kid and imagine with Dr. Seuss. And you can, if you push lighter on the pencil, it'll get lighter and create kind of like a highlight. You still want to do those lawnmower lines, but you don't want to necessarily press as hard if you want to create a lighter spot. And since I have texture in this part, I might come down here and add some texture to the scarf here too, just so it's consistent throughout. And you see how this starts to blend together. There's a lot of lines going on. I'm just gonna come in here, make this line thicker, and it pops the two apart. I can add a little yellow highlight if I want to. And then we can come in here and color this. And the nice thing about Sharpie, even though when I color over it, it fades a little bit, that's okay. If I really want it to stand out, I can just trace over it. You have to be careful with some things like tracing over, like crayon doesn't really work as well because it's a lot of wax, and Sharpie and wax and Sharpie and water, if you're trying to draw over the top, don't really work. But if you draw the Sharpie first, it tends to work much better. Sharpie doesn't like wet. It likes it if it's on top of it, but not if you're trying to put Sharpie on top of wet. So I could keep coloring this, I could keep going, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about caricatures. So I hope you enjoyed that. So one thing is, how do I show expression? So some things I wanted to talk to you about is how to show expression. And it's great to have a mirror and or a friend, and you look at each other and you're like, okay, show me your angry face, and you give an angry face. What do your eyebrows do when you're doing an angry face? Well, your eyebrows go up, right? A sad face, the angle down. Diagonals speak a lot. So I'm gonna come over to the board here, and I wanna show you that very thing. So if I'm showing sad, I might curve them a little bit too and be a little sad. I'm so sad. And maybe I want an angry face. Maybe I'll go the other direction. Oh, sorry. As I said, the other direction. So let's go the other direction. Generally they're the same, but it's different directions of diagonals. Maybe this one, a little quivering lip. Oh my goodness, but this one is more angry. So maybe more points on your zigzag lines. So that is very simple, but that kind of shows you what you can do. I have something else I'd like to show you. When I was a teenager into early college, I had a shirt that says, "How are you feeling today?" And I remember standing in line and people would be tugging on your shirt and you're like, what are you doing? Oh, I just wanted to see who I was today. People, remember boundaries. Boundaries are so important. But this is a super cool way of learning how to draw expression. So right here, this is the same type of thing I had on my shirt. How are you feeling today? Are you feeling exhausted? Look at those eyebrows. What direction are they going? And if you look, generally the faces are all basically the same, but they express it differently. This one's angry. So if you get something like this, you can really use it to help figure out how to draw emotion. I even use this when I'm looking for how do I draw emotion in a more realistic picture. And if I don't have someone to say, hey, can you show me what angry looks like, or you're miffed, or you're at peace, then I may look at something simpler like this, and then I can add more details to it. Because in general, angry, your eyebrows are going to be the same whether you're a cartoon or you're a more realistic picture. So that is my Dr. Seuss for today. I hope you enjoyed it. As I said, it's really fun to draw Dr. Seuss. He does a black light outline. You don't have to use Sharpie, but if you can, why wouldn't you? So this is Crystal with LP Design and Little Palettes. If you like this video, please like and share. And I hope you're having a great day. Signing off. Bye.